Good afternoon, all. In this lecture, I would take you through the journey of the STP for rural marketing. STP, where S stands for segmentation, T stands for targeting, and P stands for positioning of products. So, in the rural market, the segmentation, targeting, and positioning are definitely happening, but how it's been approached by the organization is little different than how they approach uh, the urban market. So, what are the prerequisites for effective segmentation? So, the first thing is whatever numbers are coming, it should be measurable. Okay. So when you are thinking of segmenting a certain kind of consumers, you should know that how big it is. What's the number of consumers? It should be quantifiable. Okay. When we talk about measurable, we are actually talking about quantifying it or giving it a certain number to the community who would be interested in our particular product or the kind of services that we are going to offer to the rural market. The second prerequisite for effective segmentation is accessibility. Okay, so the people whom we think are going to purchase our product, the people whom we think are going to be interested in our product should be accessible also. We should be able to deliver our product to the end consumer in a proper manner, in a proper fashion. And it should be readily available to them so that they can experience the product itself or the service itself, and they would be getting attached to a product or the service. So we have to remember one thing: until unless you utilize a product or you experience a service, you won't be able to have a positive image about it. So for this, the first thing that you have to think about is making that product or the service accessible to the end consumer. Third is differentiable. So one segment should be differentiable to the other. The requirements of the consumer should be a little different from what we have been thinking till now. Because until unless it is differentiable, it could be sufficed or it could be delivered by a certain kind of product altogether. Fourth, it has to be substantial. We all know in case of marketing, when we are talking about being measurable, we also need to talk about it being substantial, because you cannot make a product or you cannot make a service just for a few handful people. Okay. Then even if you are making it for the handful kind of people or a very less number of people, then definitely the cost of the product is going to be too high. Okay. And when we talk about rural marketing, definitely that's not the case in which it could be done. Okay. So definitely the number, it shouldn't be just be measurable, it should be also substantial. When we talk about targeting, what we are talking about is evaluation of the segment. Okay, so overall attractiveness of the size or the growth rate that the segment is going to achieve. Definitely nowadays, we can definitely, with the help of technology, with the help of forecasting methods, we can definitely calculate what's going to be the growth rate or what's going to be the incremental rate of adding up of new consumers into my product category. So where the company objectives and resource competitiveness also comes into picture, because even if it doesn't only mean that your segment has to be sizable, you need to look into innovative ways, you need to look into innovative methods to grow it and to provide it the minimum requirement that they need. And while providing the same, you also needs to look into different methods through which you can cut short your cost in making that product so that you can become too competitive for the competition. and they decide not to enter into the market because you are becoming a leader and you are upgrading yourselves from time to time with the product being offered to the end consumers. The second is selection of the segment. You have to have a predetermined methodology or predetermined way of how to select a certain kind of segment. Like when we talk about the Nirma product or the Live Boy, they have already thought about what's going to be the coverage, what's going to be my measuring thing. So Nirma at one point of time was the undisputed leader when we talked about the detergent powder segment altogether. And when it entered the market, Surf was one of the leaders, but still Nirma was able to create its own marketing thing with different marketing strategies by providing the product at a very competitive price to the end consumers, and still hasn't tinkered with the quality that the person is going to get, even if the product is little low cost. So the concentrated marketing has to be looked into by different organizations. Like different brands have different things. Like Coca-Cola, when it entered the Indian market, it saw that earlier they are selling at 7 rupees or a 10 rupees bottle kind of a thing. So just for the rural market, they thought of why not to get into the 5 rupee segment itself, just tinker with the pricing so that they are able to get more consumers for their drinks. And choosing a coverage strategy, you should definitely understand how the resources are going to be utilized, how you are going to make your resources sweat to make the product accessible to the different consumer groups or different consumer segments altogether. Next, we are talking about the positioning. For that, you have to identify the positioning concept. Does your product have a differentiation in itself, or your service is having a differentiability factor in it, or you are going to differentiate the different people who are going to utilize your product or the services for satisfying their needs, or you just have an advantage over your competitors basis the image that you have created in the market. And when selecting the positioning concept, you have to look into whether you are still attractive or have a distinctive character in yourself, or it is just preemptive or just affordable kind of a thing, which is coming at a very cheap price, cheap cost, and which has to be communicable. And developing the concept, when you're looking at developing the concept, you have to select the appropriate media. You have to think through the communication method, as well as the message that you want to communicate to the end consumers. And while communicating the concept, you should always think about the different ideas and how many ideas and what are the differences which are present in your ideas, and what is the different positioning strategies you are going to utilize to promote your product. Thank you.